That can really quickly turn into freezing rain, so make sure you are keeping an eye on temperatures because that freezing rain can be very difficult to drive in. Boone County prosecutor Dan Knight was found dead in his home this morning with an apparent gunshot wound. One of the most obvious places consumers are seeing inflation is at the gas pump. Gas prices are still on the climb, and almost everywhere you go, it's what people are talking about. It'd be good practice to make sure you check the back seat of your car before leaving to prevent any unwanted accidents, especially since that car can get so hot so quickly in these types of temperatures. Now, Mark Esper, who served as the second Secretary of Defense under Trump, is bringing forth new stunning details about the president's requests while in the White House. Preparing for this Valentine's Day didn't come without its challenges due to the supply chain issues. Bernie, can you tell me, how long have you been here with Bush's Florist and Greenhouse? He's feeling a little shy this morning. What a wide disparity in the 50s today, 80s Friday.
I know.
Right between my winter and summer apparel. Gotta
all over the place.
Thanks, Joe.
2 wins and the Blues move on.
Wow, I mean, like you said, great odds to avoid that with a win tonight. I mean, like you said, only 30 teams.
Yes, in NHL history in the playoffs. Students were here outside of Marshall High School for a 4th day in a row protesting for a fellow student. The protests continue after an alleged rape at a Marshall High School prom after party.
We're out here protesting for justice.
Marshall Public Schools Superintendent Carol Mayer wouldn't talk to KRCG 13, but in a written statement on the alleged rape, Mayer says the Board of Education and MPS administration strongly encourage all Marshall residents to allow the proper procedures to take place so all involved may be represented fairly. To continue conversations based on hearsay and conjecture is not only irresponsible, but will likely hinder the procedures and processes in legal efforts to yield truth and justice. Marshall Police Chief Mike Donnell says his department is looking into a sex crime investigation.
We do have an active ongoing investigation. Due to the fact it's active, we can't give out information. We can't tell what's going on and what's happening at this point in time.
Superintendent Mayer says the school has no jurisdiction when it comes to off-campus incidents, but students say otherwise.
Whenever someone gets in a fight off school or someone is getting abused or something at home and it's off school grounds, they make a big deal out of it and they report it. But once someone gets raped off school grounds, they're like, oh, that's not our problem.
If there's a fight or anything that happens off school grounds, then they would get on that.
Marshall High School students say the alleged victim has been expelled from their school.
They expelled her.
She has been told that she cannot go back for the rest of the year.
However, Marshall Public Schools wouldn't talk with KRCG 13 to confirm whether or not the alleged victim was. For now, though, the high school protesters say they will continue to stand up for what they believe in.
We're going to protest as long as it takes the school to realize that they should let the victim come back to school and they need to expel the rapist.
In a note sent to faculty and staff, Mayer asked them to decline speaking with the media. She says speaking with the media could, quote, quickly turn legal. Reporting in Marshall, Elise Person, KRCG 13. In 2021, Missouri ranked 47th in gun safety laws, according to the Gun Law Scorecard. Local gun range owners say safety is the responsibility, though, of the individual. This was the scene in St. Louis last month. A 10-year-old child shot and killed his 12-year-old brother while he was playing with a gun. These sights have become all too familiar.
This is like the 3rd incident in a week that we've had so far.
Doug Alley is the owner of Ammo Alley. He sold firearms and provided gun education for over 20 years.
Firearm safety is something that really is an individual responsibility.
He says there are options when it comes to practicing gun safety.
Either through trigger locks, cable locks, or a safe as far as that goes. Simply leaving it around the house unattended is really not safe gun handling to start with.
Ralph Gates owns Prairie Grove Shotgun Sports. It's a gun club in Columbia. He says it's important to have a gun-safe household.
The first thing is make sure everybody in that household is aware of good practice of gun safety. Kids, brothers, sisters, husbands, wife, they need to know how to handle a gun.
Gates says for children, it's never too early to begin teaching gun safety.
Let's face it, all of us when we were a kid were curious about everything. And when we get curious about things we don't know anything about, that's when problems occur.
Boone County Sheriff's Captain Brian Lear says Mid-Missouri is not exempt from those problems Gates is referring to.
Within the last year, just here in Boone County, we had an incident where a young child retrieved a firearm from someone's purse and unfortunately shot themselves. Luckily, it wasn't a fatal injury, but yet it was still something serious.
Gates, along with his gun club manager Jacob Jones, are offering some advice.
You can prevent that from happening by keeping a trigger lock on the gun or keeping the firearm locked up.
And keeping your ammo separate, so they wouldn't just be able to find the gun and be able to shoot it. They would have to go out of their way to find the gun and then find the ammo. So separating those two things can help eliminate that as well.
When it comes to legislation, both Gates and Alley say more gun laws won't improve gun safety.
You can't legislate stupidity.
There are so many gun laws on the books now that are just truly not enforced. So to look to legislation to try and fix a safety problem really isn't going to benefit anybody any further than what it already has.
The Cables from just outside Sedalia are a family with a unique perspective to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Shanette and Daryl have adopted 3 children from Ukraine, causing the couple to not only navigate their own feelings about Russia's invasion, but also the feelings of their Ukrainian children.
As we were dating, we talked about having a couple kids and adopting a couple kids, and it kind of got out of hand.
Shanette and Daryl Cable, along with their children, make up one big happy family. Emphasis on the big. The couple has 12 children altogether, 4 biological children, 5 children adopted through foster care, and 3 children with special needs adopted from Ukraine.
We have a heart for adoption, for children who don't have a place.
Shanette's ties to Ukraine go back to her childhood. She says her father would go on mission trips to Ukraine when she was a young girl and remembers packing him toys and medicine to bring to the Ukrainian orphanages.
When we decided to do international adoption, Ukraine was pretty much my first choice.
In 2010, the Cables adopted 4-year-old Anna Kay from Ukraine. 8 years later, in 2018, they brought home 7-year-old Evie, and a year later brought home 18-month-old Israel. With 3 Ukrainian children of their own, the Cables have a different perspective to the events unfolding overseas and how it affects their young ones.
We've talked about going back someday, but I don't know when that would ever be. You know, it's heartbreaking seeing what's happening.
The Cables' oldest from Ukraine, Anna Kay, is now 17 years old, but is nonverbal and can't comprehend the current events. But their 12-year-old Evie is trying to wrap her mind around what she's seeing on television.
Her first question was, what about the kids? I've had to limit watching the news because I'll see her and she'll be sitting there just watching it. And I want to spare her of that. But then she does need to know too.
Shanette says she's concerned her young mind is not able to comprehend everything, but says she does want her children to know where they are from.
They have Ukrainian roots. I mean, they may be American grown, but they have Ukrainian roots. And I want them to know of that country. I want them to understand.
But for now, the Cables ask for Americans to remember those still fighting or trapped in Ukraine during this time of war.
I think our country needs to be praying for Ukraine and reaching out and helping with humanitarian aid, refugees,
The Cables suggest SamaritansPurse.org as a great way to donate money to help those still in Ukraine. To learn more about Samaritan's Purse, visit our website, krcgtv.com. Now, Mark Esper, who served as the second Secretary of Defense under Trump, is bringing forth new, stunning details about the president's requests while in the White House. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has more on these remarkable requests. Now to the urgent manhunt for a capital murder suspect and a missing corrections officer in Alabama. CBS's Michael George joins us with the latest details and some new video. The man accused of a mass shooting on the New York City subway is now facing 2 federal charges. According to an indictment unsealed yesterday, 62-year-old Frank James is facing 1 count of a terrorist attack as well as firearm charges. Both charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. James was arrested April 13th for the shooting in Brooklyn that left 29 people injured, including 10 by gunfire.